fact, he's not even running the third most popular, which is Mage. Instead, he's running Shaman and Paladin, and what that feels like to me is he's kind of taking an aim towards sort of the Druid and the Rogue decks and the Mage decks that people are going to be playing. But Kolento has kind of gone like one notch ahead of that. He's thrown in Hunter into this mix instead, and I feel like Hunter, especially right now, is going to perform pretty well versus most of the Shaman builds that are out there. But Frezzar queuing up Paladin straight away, this may be the road hump that Kolento didn't want to face.
Yeah, Hunter, and not only Hunter, but Face Hunter is a deck that Kolento has been playing a lot lately. In the Heroes of Cards tournament, he actually played it, which resulted in the first ever tie in competitive Hearthstone. What happened was he had an explosive trap on the field, so his opponent, he knew he would be dead for the next turn, so he had to go for the tie. He played Dr. Boom, he procced the explosive trap, both players died, and the game was actually forced to be a regame.
So both Boombots went to face. How much damage did the Boombots need to deal?
They needed to do 5, so it was pretty much the average of what Boombots usually do, right?
Yeah, his roll
they
at least.
They usually roll
1.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, really exciting.
So Worgen Infiltrator, this is something that I've experimented a little bit with myself. Chalky ran this at the ESL event too, where he got second place with what looks to be almost an exact build so far. I mean, Face Hunter is pretty clean cut. It's usually just a lot of very aggressive 2-ofs that are meant to take control of the board as quickly as possible. This Zombie Chow was a turn late. Also, if he'd had this turn 1, this would have been a much different game.
Now, the real question of this game is, will Kolento ever play a card that's more than 3 mana? As you can see, everything he has so far is 1 mana, 2 mana, and he's capped out at the Wolf Rider, the Arcane Golem, and the Kill Command, which just represents so much damage in hand right now.
Yep.
That's 12 damage in his hand, plus 6 on the field right now.
Yep.
That's not even including the hero powers he can potentially weave in.
Yeah, something we've also seen in this match so far is Kolento actually having to attack a minion, which it's pretty rare that this deck, I think, has to attack a minion aside from a taunt. But something like Knife Juggler poses such a threat to this deck that you have to be able to get past that somehow. And the only thing I'm curious about is if he was going to take out that Divine Shield or not. And it looks like he's not going to. So this is like really, really, really different than the traditional Kolento I've seen in competitive tournaments, and I think that most people have seen, which is a deck that really throws caution to the wind and is kind of like a, if you have it, you have it sort of deck, and is really looking to just put maximum pressure on his opponent and go from there.
Yeah, you know what? Kolento plays the game pretty much more than anyone, so he's going to be familiar with all styles, and I think this is one style he's beginning to adapt a bit more, the more aggressive style, and it's his metagame call right now that he thinks this is a really strong decision, and this bring Hunter to the metagame can actually win him a lot of games.
Yeah, I would agree with him right now too. It's just so many people are caught off guard. They're focusing on how the mid-range decks work and how to supplement fighting against early stuff. Frezzar has had a fantastic start here. Iron Begal going to make sure that he can keep the pressure going, but I mean, with this Cog Hammer down, he might be able to stabilize this. Behind a Sludge Belcher, and with these 2 minions he has on the board and 2 more charges of this, he's going to fall pretty low. But if he manages to get to the later stages of the game and has some heals, that's typically where they run away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not only the Cog Hammer, not only the Sludge Belcher, but also the Defender of Argus is drawn. So Frezzar will just have taunts for days. Taunts for days, indeed.
Yeah, this is looking like a pretty easy turn for Frezzar, but something he does want to think about is how much of his life total he wants to invest. If he wants to keep cog hammering stuff, he is going to have to pay 1 or 2 life to do it somehow. So Zombie Chow being used first, not a surprise. I think this Mad Scientist, if he takes it out, is going to be the last minion he takes out, because he wants the least amount of things possible to be happening to his Sludge Belcher. So it's actually going to be the very last one. And part of the reason for that is he wants Kolento to have the highest % chance to draw something like Explosive Trap.
Yeah, how much damage he takes with his face, I think, in a large part is going to depend on how much healing he plays in his deck. Most players, they do play that 1 lay on hands, but besides that, the healing is just really questionable. You also have the two true silver champions, but whether you play something like anti-heal bots or even Guardian of Kings, just really depends on how well you or how much you can trade into your opponent's creatures and how likely it is for you to eventually draw those heals.
Let me ask you a question about Antique Healbot versus Guardian of Kings, because I've seen both of them, and I'm not really sure why players favor one over the other. Do you have much experience playing Paladin, or have you spoken to people about Paladin and find out when they choose one over the other and why?
I think a large part of it is that you're basically paying more with the Guardian of Kings for a stronger body. So I think it's if you play the Guardian of Kings, it's more of a nod to decks that are more mid-rangey and control-y. It's really good, for example, against Priest, because they don't really want to Shadow Word Death a 5/6 minion when they could be Shadow Word Deathing like Tyrion or something like Dr. Boom. Speaking of Dr. Boom, that's also a card that is substituted for Guardian of Kings. If players decide they want to play around BGH targets, but they still want a 7-mana creature, then why not go for Guardian of Kings instead of anti-Keelbot?
Yeah, just try to get a swing out of some card. So Kolento here actually, he chose to fetch an Explosive Trap and then just Hero Power. And frankly, I don't think he has much of another decision that he could make. Like, none of his other plays really do very much. They invest a lot of mana to get something done. And his opponent's out of 12 life. He's going to need this kill command to provide some sort of reach. And this Sludge Belcher is, I mean, this is being an absolute menace at this point. He still has no efficient way to clear it. I mean, he has some time because he's still at 27, but it's just going to be second Mad Scientist and another Hero Power here.
Yeah, this is kind of we see the Sludge Belcher on the field, and people, when they see this, they're like, oh, Sludge Belcher is just so great. But the real hero, I feel, is that Cog Hammer. The Cog Hammer prevented the first taunt, so this Sludge Belcher could get its full effect. If Cog Hammer weren't drawn, then Al would have gone on the Sludge Belcher, and that would have been just pretty insane value there.
Yeah, Cog Hammer is one of the best disruptive tools that you can possibly have versus something like Face Hunter. It's like the card is just screaming for value against a deck like this.
I still don't think that Kolento is out of it yet by any means. His opponent is sitting at 10 health with no heals whatsoever, and he has a kill command and just the ability to weave in hero powers every single turn. Not only that, he also has an Explosive Trap that will almost certainly come into the field.
Yeah, so 7 points of damage available to him. Frezzar needs to find a way to either end this game or to draw a heal to extend it, because I mean it's running really close. If Kolento draws a beast, I mean, he basically just has the game all but won at this point.
I think Frezzar at this point, he needs to race, but the problem is he doesn't have too much damage on board right now. 8 is okay, but if 8 damage on board right now means he'll probably take between 2 and 3 turns to kill his opponent.
Yep. So just going for 9 points of damage to face here. Oh, he's actually going to choose to take out the Mad Scientist. Leopardhum gets drawn. That's another 2 points of damage.
I'm not really sure about taking out the Mad Scientist there, because you're basically giving up a lot of damage to face. In fact, all the damage from Sylvanas. What do you think is the reason for that trade?
I'm not really sure. Like, it feels to me like it's fear more than anything else. I would have liked to see him go 6 damage to face. He needs to find a way to race him or to end the game or something.
Okay, so I think Arcane Golem will actually just come down as a removal spell.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a way to push through taunts right now, so I think that's just totally reasonable.
He also doesn't want some way for the Sylvanas to actually steal this Leopard Gnome, because that'll just be like a 4-point swing, right?
Yep. I like playing the Abusive Sergeant too. Just get something on the board to threaten your opponent in any way you can.
Yeah, and not only that, your opponent really loves to trade.
Wow,
I've seen that inclination from him before.
I think it's actually just game. Kolento's got 2, 4. Oh, he's only got 7 points of damage right now. So, gosh, I mean, is there a way that he can fight through this? 3, 5, 7. He's just gonna take 2 damage from the Explosive. If he attacks his opponent, he's dead.
So he can't attack. He doesn't know that, but you have to suspect that there's probably at least one kill command in his hand, or Kolento will draw the kill command eventually.
Let me think.
All right, so if he attacks with the Sludge Belcher into the Leopard Gnome, he'll actually give up his slime as well, but I don't think he has any other recourse, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's gonna go for the attack. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Kolento's gonna pick up this first game, a very quick one. It went 8 turns, but the game went pretty quickly. I mean, these turns did not have a ton of difficult decisions to be making. It was really a matter of the deck building and how this Paladin lined up versus this Hunter deck, and just last card kill command.
Yep,
See ya.
there we go.
1-0
And
lead.
you know what? I think this is one of the strengths of the Conquest format. Because Kolento won with the Face Hunter, if we were playing under King of the Hill, then we would still, or King of the Hill or Last Hero Standing, we would probably still see Face Hunter in the next upcoming matchups. But now the audience gets kind of like a recourse, and we'll see Kolento playing probably one of his infamous control decks.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how his other two decks are built. I mean, if he's taking this aggressive of a nod with Hunter, I mean, it's potential that his Rogue or his Druid deck are kind of in the same vein. I mean, we've seen him play really, really heavy aggressive Druid decks in the past with stuff like Haunted Creepers and Echoing Ooze, and just trying to get big Savage Roar turns really early on, and then couple that with just resilient minions that try to end the game. So it would not surprise me if he's choosing to play something like Face Hunter to take aggressive strategies with his other decks as well.
Yeah, I think as you were saying before, when he played decks such as Echoing Ooze or Haunted Creeper before, I think that was a kind of a nod to the metagame at the time, because Kolento, very in tune with the metagame, makes a lot of decisions based on that. Back then, a lot of Zoos and a lot of Hunters were around, so I think Echoing Oozes and Haunted Creepers were excellent choices there.
Yep. Game 2 underway here. It's going to be Druid versus Rogue. Is this the matchup that Frezzar was looking for?
Well, his other choice was Druid versus Druid, so I think I would tend to say that Druid does have maybe a slight edge against Rogue, especially with this draw. Come on, Wild Growth, Innervate.
No, this is a very average Druid draw. Everyone always has Coin and Wild Growth and Innervate and 2 big tots. 3 big tots. Yeah, this is this is an excellent draw from Frezzar. And Kolento, looking maybe just tired, but he may be a little bit pained by this draw. It doesn't really do anything. He's got Backstab, he's got Piloted Shredder. These are kind of cards that, like, Piloted Shredder is good in its own right, but Backstab, Preparation, and Blade Flurry all need to be coupled with something to really have strong effects.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this Rogue deck probably is the Rogue deck that Kolento recently got Rank 2 Legend with. I mean, probably not the biggest accomplishment for Kolento, but Rank 2 Legend still deserves some respect, right?
Oh my gosh, look at this. Right off the bat, he draws a Spectral Knight. And that Spectral Knight actually a really good call right now with how many Rogues are floating around. This is a card that's extremely difficult for Rogues to deal with. Kolento's got no real play this turn. If he wants to take it out, he's going to have to use Poison, Blade Flurry, and pay 4 points of life, and lose his dagger in the process.
His other option is just to, oh my god, just to Poison, and then essentially take 12 damage from it. He's hovering over the Blade Flurry, and I think this is okay, because your opponent has used 2 cards to get out the Spectral Knight, so you use 2 cards to get rid of the Spectral Knight, and it's a relatively fair trade for what Spectral Knight usually is.
I think a bigger loss of it for Kolento is the fact that he's having to use tools that he typically does not want to use in situations like this. Picks up Violet Teacher though, and I think I'd like to see him play this Piloted Shredder first.
Well, one advantage of the Violet Teacher is that it just doesn't die to Wrath, I guess. Plus it doesn't die to Wrath, and I guess if you draw something else, you could have more options in the future. For example, if you drew like a Sprint next turn, there's just more possibility for value in the next few turns.
I like the Piloted Shredder simply because of Violet Teacher Backstab this turn. But he's actually still going to play with Piloted Shredder. Oh, he's just going to sap this.
I am ready to learn.
Yeah, I think this is a
that's
fine sap.
Yeah, that's fine. He's so, I mean, look how much counterplay he has in the coming turns. I mean, this is a spot where Frezzar is really going to feel pressured to swipe if he has something like that, and then really doesn't have an effective answer to this otherwise. He skipped his turn 4 play, so his turn 6 play is just going to be another 5-drop or a 6-drop that is basically going to be in the exact same situation that a taunt was.
And again, this is exactly what Rogue is. I think Blizzard did a pretty good job designing Rogue as a class. It gets a lot of tempo early on with its really efficient spells, but really low-costed spells. So Rogue will have, typically they'll have board advantage, but they'll also have a card disadvantage. And how you're usually wanting to make that up is by drawing Sprint on turn 7. Back when Miracle Rogue was a thing, this didn't typically pan out, but now I think Rogue is exactly where Blizzard wants it at.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Vein of Knives gets picked up. Not really an important draw at the moment, but he's going to use it to keep his Backstab around for another turn, get some extra value, pick up a card. Not the worst draw.
I am ready to learn.
Yeah, not at all.
I don't actually even think there is a bad draw in Kolento's deck right now.
I am ready.
Maybe the haha would be pretty bad, actually.
It'd be pretty bad. I'll give you that one. You found one. Okay, so now that he's in this spot, though, does he want to use the tokens to hedge against swipe, or does he want to use his Piloted Shredder?
I think, I don't know, a typical player would probably say to use the tokens to somewhat play around swipe. And I guess Kolento goes for that, but I've seen some rogue players when they see this, they know they have to get damage in. The rogue players are usually the ones that know how games can be lost with 1 or 2 damage. So they're the ones that might not take that trade and just might go for the extra token value.
Another tough turn here from Frezzar. Draws an innervate, but again, just not a lot of action going on. This Violet Teacher has just been a nightmare. It's made 4 1/1s so far, and it's dealt 6 points of damage, and it's still there. That's just, it's just like one of the. And Pilot Charger's still there too. Frezzar is just really. He had a really great opener, but just the fact that Kolento drew Violet Teacher and then drew Sap threw the entire thing for a loop. He's about to get more bad news here too.
Yeah, the backstab eviscerate exactly what Kolento needs, and he even draws another cycling card. I guess it's not the most value here with the Phantom Knives, but I think it's again not a bad card to draw, especially with the Valley Teacher on board.
I think at this point you're probably going to see his whole hand get used, and you're going to have to like. I think it's really likely you're going to see his face go into one of these 2 minions this turn.
There we go, fan. You know, Valley Teacher is so interesting, and just the rogue deck is just built so interestingly because like really Phantom Knives typically it's not that great in a lot of matchups, but because you have cards like Thalnos, Azure Drake, and Violet Teacher in your deck, you can turn those times when Fan isn't that good into times when it's all right. It's basically Fan, red, deal 1 damage across all minions, and summon a 1/1. And I think that's fairly fair for 3 mana.
Yeah. Just wants to get the Blood Mage active here. Just having an extra card is what Kolento should value right now, and certainly so. His opponent's down at 10, and Kolento has no cards left. So this taunt, it's going to be another speed bump, but I don't really know if it's going to be enough for Frezzar at this point. Kolento's going to get 2 cards this turn, and he's got 7, 8. He's got access to 11 damage just on the board right now.
Sludge Belcher is a good one, but oh man, Loatheb.
You talk about power draws. They are not short in this series. The Sludge Belcher, though, it is going to get some work done, I think. I mean, I wouldn't hate to see.
Is going to get more work done.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate to see Frezzar. To see Kolento just drop both of his minions here and pass. You know, it's not like imperative that you deal with this Sludge Belcher this turn, and getting past the Sludge Belcher is buying you some damage. But how much is that damage worth? Like, you have to sacrifice basically your entire board to do it.
I actually wouldn't mind Loatheb. I wouldn't actually mind running one of the 1/1s into the Sludge Belcher and passing.
I'm ridiculous. He can heal his Violet Teacher with this. Or something far. I wasn't even thinking about that for some reason. Yeah, so he just loses tokens. He doesn't actually lose anything here. So he buys 1 point of damage, gets a super strong board. Frezzar can't cast any spell. This is significantly better than my mind just lost the idea that he could possibly even heal his own minion here.
Yeah, sometimes people forget, like, oh, you just heal your own face. That's all Earthen Ring Farseer is for, right?
Yeah, it's a tempo card. A lot of situations. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be enough. 5, 6. Yeah, that's more than enough damage to be able to get this job done. He's preparing for nothing. He doesn't need to. So Kolento got to jump out to a 2-0 lead here. Wow, what a strong lead and a strong finish. Kolento. Frezzar's hand was so good too. Like, what went wrong for him in that game? Did he just not have the utility to get through the mid game?
Well, you know what? He just pretty much, I think he didn't have the swipe, and he couldn't actually clear the Violet Teacher. None of his cards in his hand was able to clear that Violet Teacher, and that Violet Teacher throughout the course of the game, I think it summoned like 6 or 7 1/1 tokens, and that's something like a 8 mana creature would do, right? Summon a 3/5 plus summon like it's like a Nixia pretty much.
Just a 4-minute Nixia over time. It's like when you get you get a couple whelps at the beginning, you don't get them all at once. But the Violet Teacher is like the first coming of Nixia. When Nixia gets like summoned in the Stormwind Hall, like where Anduin and Varen are. Is my lore right here? That's where she gets summoned.
I don't know. Honestly, geez. I haven't played WoW.
Wow! I can't believe it. Who am I even talking to right now?
I'm sorry.
Chat, help me out on this one. Where was the first time you saw a Nixia, like through the story chain? Not that spoiler alert, by the way, for those of you who haven't played this, 11-year-old game or whatever it is.
If you haven't played it, you're a bit late.
My bad. Spoilers. But yeah, the first time you see a Nixia, it's not actually in dragon form. I'm pretty sure.
In human form.
It's
Like I know the lore fairly well.
I think it is Violet Teacher.
Oh,
It's not actually
wow.
Violet Teacher, but I'm just. I can believe, can't I?
Okay, so turn 1, Druid throws down a Zombie Chow. Not bad because it can contest the tokens of Shaman very well, but Shaman has a good answer, which is the Power Mace.
Yeah, this is sort of a list that I was experimenting with. It looks like that Frezzar's playing. It just Power Mace is basically just it's dedicated to value. You're not really trying to get gigantic swing turns from Power Mace. It's that you have efficient mechs in your deck because you basically want to play them anyway. Stuff like Harvest Golem and Piloted Shredder are likely just going to find their way into this list. And then something like Power Mace is going to help enhance those minions as you go along. So this is just like a card that this deck needed, was something that can get you tempo and get you value at the same time.
You know what's really curious to me though about the Shaman's hand right now? It's that when normal Shaman players, they put Power Mace into their decks, they tend to cut other 3-mana creatures like Feral Spirits. And now we see both Power Mace and Feral Spirits in the Shaman's hand. So the Shaman definitely really loaded on turn 3.
Yeah, I think I actually this is one of the lists that I had just again most success with. Is turn 4, you're so often consumed by like Rockbiter, Lightning Bolt, or Earthshock or something like that that it allows you to continue to play 3-drops and just keep trying to get tempo out of them.
Yeah, it's really fair.
Yeah.
Does sound, if you play like that many 3-drops and that many 1-drops, it sounds to me that you tend to you probably tend to have problems with card draw down the future. Do you think we'll see a lot of card draw minions in the Shaman from now on?
I definitely think it's possible. I had Azure Drakes in that list, and something else I was running was Bloodlust, because you would just very often get 3 or 4 pretty much useless minions on the board by the end of the game between your totems and how heavily you were fighting for the board. And Bloodlust was just providing you the reach that you needed to be able to finish people.
Okay, so Sludge Welcher comes down to contest the Piloted Shredder, but unfortunately, Frezzar has a really good answer to that.
He has a couple really good answers to this too. I mean, this is actually a difficult turn to navigate because he's got so many different ways to attack this.
If he chooses to Rockbiter now, he actually has a choice to buff the Piloted Shredder now, or buff the Pilot Shredder that he could play in addition. But I like this play better. Haunted Creeper and a totem.
Yep.
It just sets up Flame Tongue Totem a lot better in the future.
Yeah, this is also a spot where you really don't mind getting swiped at all. Like swipe, he's getting a totem and he's getting a 6/4 body out of it, but Frezzar's going to end up with a lot more board presence. So a play like this and just having to silence a Piloted Shredder that just attacked is like not the best feeling in the world.
Oh, certainly not.
So getting Keeper or Silence there, I think really good stuff. And I'd be shocked if Fire Elemental was not played this turn.
Oh yeah, Fire Elemental is just a strong 6/5 body, and Druid just typically they have a hard time dealing with really strong bodies. That's why, again, we were talking about Guardian of Kings before. Druid is one of those classes that does have a hard time dealing with Guardian of Kings.
I said I'd be shocked, but something else to consider is if he ends up attacking into this Keeper of the Grove with this 4/3, and he rolled something like a Healing Totem, he'd be in such good shape right now. Because the other thing too is when he leaves this 4/1 up, he's really putting a lot of pressure on Kolento's ability to play a 7-cost minion in a spot like this. Like if he plays Dr. Boom, Fire Elemental plus the 4/1 silenced body is going to kill the 7/7 part of it. If he plays Ancient of Lore, the Haunted Creeper and the 4/1 body are going to contest it. This is putting a lot of pressure just on the variables of plays he can have. And something like a 5-drop, Frezzar's got an answer to that. He's got Flame Tongue Totem and he's got Fire Elemental. This is a really heads-up play.
Definitely. Fortunately for Kolento, he does draw the Dr. Boom, so that's always going to be an option for him going into turn 7. Frezzar has Flame Tongue Totems set up for this current turn, but they wouldn't have done that well against the 1/1 Boom bots that the Dr. Boom is summoned. Kolento does go for, I would say, the more conservative play. I guess slightly better against Hex. I'm not even sure.
I think this is a lot better. And I think the reason is just because he's maintaining a big board presence. Like he's doing as much as he can to fight for the board because he's not too concerned about his life total right now, so not a ton to worry about. This Piloted Shredder can sometimes backfire here, so this summon's pretty important. Fairy Dragon is certainly not a backfire though.
Oh yeah, very good. You can't even. What can you even do against the fairy dragon, right?
Well, Keeper of the Grove and Spell Power Swipes is about it. Wow, and now look at this board from Frezzar. And what on earth does Kolento do to get out of this one?
Yeah, Frezzar in the previous game, he was punished for not drawing swipe, and Kolento, in the same token, he's also punished for not drawing swipe in one of the earlier turns of the game, and this board is just kind of snowballed out of control.
Yeah, not a lot of good options here.
A lot of situational cards too, but just basically both the Savage Roar is just completely useless right now.
Something else to note, the one thing Kolento does have going for him is the position of this Flame Tongue Totem. It's not in a great spot right now for Frezzar. I'm curious if there's anything he could have done to arrange this to be in a better spot. Like, could he have been more mindful of his position?
I was gonna say, I feel like when he played the Haunted Creeper, it might have been he might have placed it slightly more to the left, and if that happened, then the Haunted Creeper would actually be around where the Fairy Dragon is right now, or even to the left of the Fairy Dragon.
Yeah. So Fire Elemental, I said I would be shocked that if he didn't play it on that turn with the Keeper of the Grove, but I still am kind of shocked that he actually had an even better play than Fire Elemental when you really thought about it. But this turn, this turn I would truly be stunned if Fire Elemental didn't hit the board.
So what series of trades can he make it so he can deal with this board effectively? Again, the Flame Tongue could be in a better position. He could have gotten 2 buffs off with the Flame Tongue on the left.
Now, something I'm curious about is if he's going to put this Fire Elemental next to this Flame Tongue Totem. It's going to open him to Big Game Hunter if he does that. So I would suspect that this is pretty likely to go somewhere on the right side. Haunted Creepers get taken out. And this is actually a little bit of a... He can't actually play Fire Elemental unless the Boombot kills something here. So yeah, I got to play it as far away from that Flame Tongue as he can. He does not want to get Big Game Hunter and then the Healing Totem.
That's avoiding the Flame Tongue so much. It's like, oh, get away from me.
Maybe that was his intent, though, was actually to keep the Fire Elemental away from Flame Tongue.
Oh, yeah. I think definitely.
Yeah, definitely possible. And now this Flame Tongue Totem is lined up so that I can just... All his minions can trade down the line into anything big that Kolento has to play. It's like at this point, this is the point in the game where Shaman wants to be, where it's seized complete control of the board, and your opponent basically just has no hope of climbing out of it.
I think Flame Tongue, out of all the Shaman cards, is kind of like the definitive Shaman class card. It's like what gets you the most value out of... It has the potential for the most value, and it's a lot of what Shaman is based around: sticky minions, and minions that just combo very well with the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yep. Scenario's going to make two trees here. I'm not sure it's going to make too much of a difference. I would suspect he really wants that Fire Elemental next to the Flame Tongue right now.
Probably.
Yeah, I like that Kolento's taking out one of the wolves here too. And he has to open his shade to it, but the last thing he wants is both of these wolves to attack into these 2/2s and then have the Healing Totem pop him back up to out of swipe range.
If Frezzar really, really wants to, he can eventually get this Fire Elemental next to the Flame Tongue Totem.
That sounds like a great play.
I do think... one problem with Frezzar right now is that his hand is actually not that great for what it is. He can actually... He can almost play everything this turn, and after that, he'll be just drawing fairly dead because Shaman just tends to have a lot of low curving minions, especially since we've seen a lot of 3-drops coming from Frezzar's deck.
I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious how he's going to choose to approach this. Like, his totem this turn is like exceptionally interesting. Does he want to try to get another Spell Power Totem, or does he want a Taunt Totem or a 1/1 Totem more? So like, if he wants his Spell Power Totem again, he should attack with his Spell Power first, and if he doesn't want it again, he should roll a totem right now, unless he has no intention of rolling a totem.
Okay. Okay, so he just wants to get the Fire Elemental on the board and deal some damage to the Keeper. And now, before Druid, you said that he didn't feel that threatened, but I think he certainly feels threatened now with 2 Fire Elementals on board.
Yeah, did Frezzar miss an attack with the Spell Power Totem?
Not really sure. He must have attacked face, right?
I think
If he did attack.
Yeah, if he attacked face, but I think he missed the attack.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it's consequential at all. I mean, just look, he's so far ahead in a position like this. It's like, how does he even, like, spell power swipe is one of the only ways that Kolento can actually get back into this game, I'm pretty sure.
And unfortunately, there's no Azure Drake in Frezzar's hand, or we could be seeing like a huge comeback now.
Yeah.
Or rather, no Azure Drake in Kolento's hand.
No Azure Drake and no Blood Mage. And no swipe. He doesn't really have anything. Oh, he's just gonna have to heal himself too. Oh, this is ugly.
Yeah, I think Kolento is realizing he's in a lot of trouble right now, but he also realizes that his opponent is really low on cards right now. So if he plays like this, and Frezzar doesn't draw any burns, then in the long game, just as we saw with Tice versus Savitz, he might be able just to win that long game.
Yeah, this roll pretty important, by the way. He's going to need a 4 on one of these minions.
Why not? Go for it.
I think he may be trying to, bluff some sort of decision making.
I think he's actually just praying right now that he doesn't roll double threes.
He's like, please no double threes, anything but that. He's still got 13 damage to the face if he rolls 2 threes. It's not the worst spot in the world for him. But yeah, definitely wants to roll 2 4s instead.
Unfortunately, this Dami Chow is like almost kind of dead, right?
Yeah.
2 4s. Nice.
Yeah, he just needed 1. The second one is pretty inconsequential. There's no way he's ever attacking this ancient lore here. So this is gonna be 12 damage to face.
Let's go. All right, and now what can Kolento draw? Is there anything he can draw now?
Swipe.
Swipe.
Azure Drake swipe.
I guess Azure Drake swipe, but I don't think swipe even does it.
Well, Shaded Next Ramus certainly isn't going to do it. Yeah, because he can't afford to hero power into the other fire elemental.
All right,
He could
so
draw. I can't think of anything.
Hunter.
Yeah, Big
Nope.
Game Hunter's not going to do it. So Frezzar going to be able to take a deep breath and relax from this one. He's going to finally draw blood in this series. 2 games to 1 for Kolento. So Kolento going to have to continue to playing his Druid deck. And Frezzar, I mean, he's got his other 2 decks available to him now. He's got Druid and he's got Paladin. What do you want to see him go here with, and why?
Let's see. I guess right now at this point, you just really want to be scouting out what is in the Druid's deck, and I believe probably, like we said, we probably want to lead with the Paladin, because I think Black Knight is probably one of the most influential cards that can turn a match around. But at the same time, on the same token, Harrison Jones is also a card that's typically in Druid decks, and you might also want to scout around that. But typically, as the Paladin player, I would say you can't really play around Harrison Jones in Druid decks, so
Yeah,
maybe not as much of a concern.
It's a lot tougher. I mean, Muster for Battle is just going to make 1/3 weapons very often, or 1/4 weapons that you're going to use an attack charge. And so you're going to give your opponent 3 cards very often. And when you have to use True Silver Champion, it's usually because you don't have another reasonable play for it. So I think I like going with Paladin here too.
Before we continue, as this might be the last game of the day, I just want to thank everyone who donated today to Child's Play. We actually just reached over $600, so we definitely reached our goals, the goal that we specified of $500. So thanks everyone, and keep donating, guys.
Great tournament so far. Wow, we've seen so many good games.
Yeah, especially that Tice versus Savitz match. Oh my god, that would probably be one of the absolute best series of the entire year so far, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best ones. That's probably the closest series I think I've ever seen. Is that one? It just, every single point at every step of the way mattered.
Yeah, I guess none of the individual games were like quote unquote like super amazing, except maybe the last one. But just overall, it just panned out so well. It's just really tense the entire way, and I think every game was really, really close.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth in between these two. So Sludge Belcher going to be the play here, and Aldor Peacekeeper. It's all right versus Sludge Belcher, but I I certainly think he'd be like to be playing something else. I think this Lotheb is going to be really key to him just being able to fight in terms of, you know, body for body. But having to use an Aldor Peacekeeper here just to get the ball rolling on something is not really what he wants to do. He wants to use these on sort of like a, you know, Dr. Boom minions in spots where tension's being created on the board by like Druid of the Claw facing down some other minions, and then he's using Aldor Peacekeeper to buy himself some tempo.
Yeah.
Thankfully for him, Kolento does not have the strongest turn right now.
There's just so many things in the Druid deck that you can Aldor that Sludge Belcher might actually be in the bottom half, and I think it probably is even in the bottom half. Only like Zombie Chow or Keeper that Grows, you'd be more unlikely to Aldor.
So Hero Power certainly going to be the play here, but where does he split this damage up? I think I would like to see him take out the Aldor Peacekeeper, but I think there's a really strong argument for taking out the Shielded Minibot.
The Shielded Minibot, I feel, if you take that out, you leave a 2-1 on the board, and it's going to be really difficult for your opponent to deal with it, especially one that's behind a Sledge Belcher. I mean, like, does he Consecrate now, or...?
Consecrate's not one of these cards. I think it just doesn't get a ton of value in this matchup.
Well, yeah, like typically you have to combo it with Equality, right?
Yeah. So So what he's doing, I mean, this turn has basically bought him the tempo he was looking for. He's got it 3-2 on the board. He's at 29 HP. Sylvanas could still be a big problem for this board, though.
No time for games.
Yeah, Sylvanas. What does Paladin actually have to deal with Sylvanas in this particular board? Can he even develop the board any further now because Sylvanas is on it?
I think he can still go for Lotheb. I think he's fine just playing Knife Juggler and Aldor Peacekeeper too, though.
Yeah.
Now that he's drawn the Big Game Hunter, it makes such a big difference, like on this other Aldor Peacekeeper. Like without the Big Game Hunter, I think he'd be saving it.
Yeah. Another key point is that Frezzar already has Tyr in his hand, but Kolento already has the Keeper of the Grove, exactly what he needs. And he actually had a different play, which was just keepering the Aldor the previous turn, but I'm glad he kept it because this allows him to be safer if the game goes on to turn 8, which I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I'd like to see him keep his Keeper basically as long as he can as well. Something like Tyrion, he doesn't want to have to face down a Tyrion that just blows him out.
Move quickly.
Even though Tyrion, it can blow out a lot of matchups, actually, like, I think against Druid, if Paladin gets the the Ashbringer, it's actually, like, somewhat okay, because every time you smack a minion with the Ashbringer, you take damage yourself. And, like, for example, when you kill an Ancient of Lore, that's 5 damage to your face already, and just ever so closer to the combo range.
Yeah, it just really matters how the game's been. Like, in this game in particular, the weapon matters so much because the players have stayed on such an even life total. Like, it turned into a trading battle for Kolento really early on. It wasn't a pressure battle and then trying to get to a big Savage War turn as quickly as possible. Instead, he's basically just drawing big minions every step of the way. Wow, you know what actually is a really good play here from him too? Is to attack his...
To attack the Aldor and then Keeper his own Sylvanas.
Well, I was just going to say if he just runs into the 5/5 and then plays Dr. Boom, he's going to have a big board position.
Okay.
Like, I
guess that's the obvious play.
I was looking at like attacking this Aldor Peacekeeper because it's worth so much to do it, but I think it's worth more to just take the 3/1 and then play a Dr. Boom.
I also agree, but I thought you were going somewhere else completely different with that.
Well, the thing about it, the way he does this differently, I think if he has something like Mind Control Tech in mind, and he doesn't want that to be a big effect of him, because if he takes this 3/1 and then he plays Dr. Boom, he's open to Mind Control Tech, which I think is something he's trying to avoid. And then at the same time, this is the other play that I think that is reasonable from him, because this is going to challenge Lotheb with the hero power twice in a row, and since this turned into a grind battle, that's like the exact position he wants to be in, and Sylvanas is still on the board. Like, this is a major looming presence right now, and this is not what he wants to be facing down.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where after you do the play and your opponent looks at it and he's like, wow, like, this is actually really hard to deal with. What can I do against this?
The last thing you want to be doing is taking 10 damage from Sylvanas and having it still be on the board. This is one of the nightmare scenarios.
So there's actually a lot of you know what? Like, he can go for the really lucky ping, and he has 2 chances to go for it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Picks up on
Easy.
the first one.
And I think we're going to be even seeing... you know what? You might not see a 1-1. Because if he actually doesn't 1-1 here, or if he doesn't summon a Silverhand Recruit, he can summon Tyrion. But I guess next turn he has Dr. Boom, which is, I guess, always a really good play. Unless the Sylvanas still sticks on the board behind a huge taunt. But wow, Swipe is also really huge now.
The other thing that's surprising to me is that both these players are throwing so much caution, or that, I'm sorry, that Frezzar is throwing so much caution away from mind control tech, and it looked to me like Kolento was really mindful to play around mind control tech. Like, it felt like the scenario he didn't want to be in. And I feel like that same sort of thing is happening right now. Like, he has a really good turn with just running his Sylvanas into the Lotheb, picking up one of these minions and then playing a Dr. Boom, but he doesn't want to get something like mind control tech or have like a Consecrate and a big Game Hunter blow him out. Like, these are all things that he's thinking about right now.
Yeah, if actually he runs a Sylvanas into the Lotheb, steals like maybe not the greatest creature, and then summons a Dr. Boom, that, exactly as you said, the big Game Hunter plus the Consecrate could just swing the board around.
Even something like a Muster for Battle in a big Game Hunter could do a big job of that.
Job's done. Time waits for no one.
Okay, so he's gonna play the more conservative play and guarantee a steal on a 3-3.
He wants the 3-3, and he's also playing around mind control tech. I think this is one of the bigger plays he can make. So just holding on to his Dr. Boom and to his Cenarius, this is like such diligent play. Now, he has used Keeper of the Grove at this point too. So Frezzar can't play Tyrion this turn quite literally because he used his coin. Do you think he's thinking about that now and going, oh, why did I use that coin? Why did I make that 1-1?
I think it's all right because I guess you're not too afraid of dying next turn. Does the combo kill him right now? It's
14 plus 5 plus 4. So yeah, it's 23 exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah, Kolento is just really on point.
I don't think you can play around that though, but I guess he will. Okay. Well, you know, because he's leaning towards the true silver play, it actually plays around scenarios as well. And I think that was what Kolento was thinking with his previous turn. Even though this board looks really weak, if scenarios come down on the field, a really weak board can suddenly turn into a really strong board.
This looks like, to me, it's finally going to be a spot where Kolento does not have the option to play around mind control tech anymore.
Yeah, basically both his plays summon 4 minions.
It's so like, it feels like it almost feels like it's there though. Like, he hasn't seen Dr. Boom. Coin got used heading into a turn 7, so I don't feel like he thinks Tyrion is in his hand. I think that's part of the reason that he was influenced into playing Keeper that turn. Like, your opponent, like, what are these 4 cards in his hand that your opponent is not playing minions and they're playing True Silver Champion and making 1-1s? Like, what are these plays? What is his goal? And like, what range of cards could you possibly be looking at this point?
Now, Kolento has a very difficult decision right now. He has a choice of his big 2 baddies, and he can actually, even if he plays the bigger baddie, he can innervate a hero power out, innervate a hero power out and clear the board. So what does he think is more threatening, this Cenarius or the Dr. Boom?
I really don't mind giving +2/+2 and then innervate hero powering the 1/1 away, because you get 2 5-power minions on the board. You played around mind control tech, and the True Silver Champion isn't threatening either one of them. I think it's actually a pretty solid scenario to be in. But I think also, at this point, you may just kind of like go, you know what? I don't really have an option anymore. If he steals his Dr. Boom, I don't have a way to play around that.
As we were saying before, big Game Hunter and Consecrate could be a play, but Muster for Battle is also a very good option. You summon essentially 4 1/1 minions on the field. The problem with that and not clearing the boom bots with Consecrate is that if you've been playing around combo the previous turn, if you just summon the 1/1s against these 1/1 boom bots and leave them alone, you don't play around combo this turn. So it's just an inconsistent line of play overall.
Yeah. Well, I think something else that's happening too is just the way the game's developing. Like, Kolento's having to consider playing Dr. Boom, and when Frezzar's seeing that, he might be kind of taking that into account and thinking, you know what, my opponent probably doesn't have combo here. He's just going to go for it though, and this is still even pretty risky considering playing around combo, because the boom bots, I mean, their average is going to be 5 damage. So when he's at 19, his average life total is going to be 14 afterwards. So he still doesn't play around combo with a play like this. And Kolento finally gets his safe Cenarius turn, where he's seen both consecrates get used. There's no true silver champion, and his opponent's minion is a 4/2. I think this is like kind of the dream turn that Kolento was looking for with this scenarios.
Unfortunately, the wrong player has drawn Harrison Jones. You can't really Harrison anything in the Druid's deck, so Tyrion will be the play. Can Kolento actually deal with this Tyrion though?
Yeah, Frezzar needs to draw Blingtron.
Blingtron. I mean, if you run Blingtron, or if you run Harrison, why not run Blingtron, right? It's a combo.
Why not? You're welcome, Hearthstone community. Monk and I have built the next broken Paladin deck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Paladin needs, is one more weapon. You don't get enough between Muster for Battle, Coghammer, True Silver Champion, and Tyrion.
Oh, wow. Savage Roar.
It's not quite enough, but it's getting really close. Well, maybe it is enough, actually.
I think it is enough, actually, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 8. Oh, it is enough. That's actually 12 exactly.
Well, there you have it.
Okay, it is enough. I lied. Don't trust my math because it's terrible.
Oh man,
Right
Adam
now.
lied. All right, there you go.
Oh, he's actually 1 over. Jeez, I'm terrible at this game.
He's actually 3 over.
Oh, he's 3 over. I'm super terrible. I can't do math today for some reason. Kolento gonna take this series 3-1. I feel like Frezzar really playing very cautiously at a lot of steps in this game, and Kolento was playing very cautiously too, but it was pretty clear what his plan was in mind. And I think at the end of this game, what it was is Frezzar being almost too afraid of combo in the end of the game, because something else you have to consider is not only like, do I play around combo, but if you play around combo, how do you seize the board and find a winning position from that?